Hi, welcome everyone. I am Sharon Smith, the CEO and founder of Social Soup, and welcome to our very first ever SOUPFEST. We are excited to be here, aren't we, Katie?
We are.
So we are so excited to have so many of you joining us today for the first ever SOUPFEST that we're putting on at Social Soup. This is a new thing. We're trying something new. So we're really pleased that so many of you are jumping on to join us, and we're really keen to hear about what you think about this. We've got a fantastic lineup of brands. But for us during COVID-19 at Social Soup, we started sort of looking at our business and what we felt was needed and missing. And we also started doing some research with our community, with our supers. And we were asking you questions about how you were feeling at the time and importantly, what people wanted for the future. And we heard from people that we wanted to come back. We didn't want to go back to normal. We wanted to do things differently and we wanted to build back better. We wanted to look at more meaning in our life. We wanted more purpose. We were really enjoying the connections that we were having with people and that time we were having with friends and family. So at Social Soup, at home in our tracky pants, we started thinking about what we can do differently and how we can build back better at Social Soup. So enter SOUPFEST, something we're trying out. So SOUPFEST is all about connecting you with each other, hopefully, and also with brands that you love and in a more meaningful way. So in that sort of direct connection where you actually hear directly from the brands and you also get to interact directly. So we've got a lot of fun interactive sessions coming up. So I'm going to introduce Katie, who's sitting next to me. So Katie has been part of Social Soup almost from the beginning, over 10 years now, and is our commercial director. So does a lot of work with all the clients that you're going to hear about from today. And importantly, will be your host with the most. So over to you, Katie. Tell us all about today.
Thank you, Sharon. So I just want to start by giving you guys a few details about the running order of today. Very practically, we will be running sessions from about 1:10 until about 6:20. Now, they're going to run every 20 minutes, and we know that everybody's busy. There's a lot of stuff on, so we've made this especially easy for you. The link that you're on right now, you can come and go from at any time you want throughout the day. So you don't have to apply for a new password or get in. If you need to go and do something, if you need to go and get the kids, I know a few of you guys said that unfortunately yoga will be with the kids this afternoon. That's completely fine.
Never easy.
Never easy. Although a good chance to just shut the door and have a bit of time, just saying.
An excuse.
An excuse. But you can just get off that link that you're currently on and click back on at any time that you want to. We are going to be keeping these sessions to 20 minutes, and to give you a bit of kind of flexibility, there will be a few minutes between each session where we'll be kind of recapping, asking some questions, going to the socials to see what you guys have been saying. With that, we do have discussion points on every one of our brand sessions today. So most of these actually do have a competition element where you can win prizes, which is always fantastic, which is great. But the way that we're going to be doing this is super simple. So before our speakers start, you will see a holding screen that comes up on your Zoom screen. And that will have who's coming up, a bit of an introduction, but it will also have the question that we will be putting into social. So the way to enter is go onto the Social Soup Facebook page. You will see the question has been asked on our feed and you can answer that. Some will be, what's your favorite, tells a story about your worst hair day, or what's your ideal thing on a platter. So they're just discussion points that we'd like you to enter. And as I mentioned, we will be then taking a few of those and discussing them. You would have seen on that initial screen, but I will keep reminding you throughout the day, we also do have a really exciting major prize, and that's going to be run on Instagram. So most of it's on Facebook, but there is going to be one on Instagram, and that's on the SOUPFEST 2020 hashtag. So at any time throughout the day, anything that you love, any creation that you make, anything that you take out of it, please do share a story or a photo onto that, onto your feed, and we will be choosing an ultimate winner who will receive one of the prizes from every single session from today. So one final point on these
I was just going to say, importantly, on those competitions, they will be open for 48 hours.
Yeah.
So we will be, did I just take you?
Yeah, I was going to say, importantly, we will leave it open for 48 hours, so you don't have to answer right away. The other thing that I wanted to let you guys know is that if you can't see a session right now, we're taping this. So you can see great banter like this, but also you can actually go back on and watch anything that you've missed. So if you don't see a session but want to enter that competition, it will still be open from 48 hours from right now. That's it.
Fantastic. Well, I think that we should introduce our first session.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Before we go into that, another important bit, actually my job, Kate wasn't going to is understanding our Q&A and our chat. So I could see that many of you have found the chat feature, which is amazing. And we are really excited that we're going to be able to hear from you directly, and you're going to be able to chat with us, and we'll be reading that and looking at that as the session's going through. But really, really super importantly is the Q&A function. Now, I know some of you are new to Zoom. Hard to believe in this COVID-19 times that some of us are new to Zoom. But down the bottom of your screen, it's probably down the bottom, you'll see that there is a Q&A section. Now, importantly, that's where we're going to be taking questions for each session. So each session presenter is set up that they will be having a Q&A section at the end. So importantly, we want you guys to be super engaged and ask lots of questions, because then they'll feel the love that you're actually interested in what they're saying too. So they'll be reading that, and at the end of their session, they will be coming and trying to answer as many as possible of those questions. So Q&A to each of the sessions will be down the bottom, and chat will come to us because we're just chatting. Over to Katie.
Okay, so let's kick this off. We have a super, super exciting session to start with. I'd like to introduce you to Peter Cooley. Peter is the founder of Indigigrow. Now, Indigigrow is a Sydney-based Aboriginal social enterprise who specialise in Australian bush foods, environmental services, and much more. They're here today to teach us how to grow native bush tucker in our own garden. And really, thank you so much, Peter. Additionally, he's also going to take us through a welcome to country. So, Peter, over to you.
Sorry, bit of technical. Okay, now we got it. Can you hear me loud? Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Indigigrow. My name's Peter Cooley. I'm the CEO of First Hand Solutions Aboriginal Corporation, and I also am coming live to you from country, my traditional country here today. I'm a very proud Bidjigal man, and I'm coming to you from Bidjigal country today. I grew up here in the Laparus Aboriginal community, and we're very fortunate that we get to come to work on country every day, which is pretty special for not only me but also the young people that work with me. I'm going to tell you a bit of a yarn about, or basically a story, which will end up, you'll get the story about Indigigrow. But before I do that, I just want to give a warm welcome to all the participants in on the webinar today, and welcome you all to Bidjigal country. But I also want to acknowledge that we're going across country and we're crossing over into different country all on a national scale. So I just want to acknowledge other Aboriginal people that may be in on this coverage, and also acknowledge elders past, present and future, not just in my own community, but also right around the country. It's really excited to join this initiative and be able to share our story. And before I do that, I would just want to sort of backtrack a little bit and just give you a bit of an insight into sort of growing up here, because it's quite relevant to where we're at now with Indigigrow. But growing up here in Laparus, we are actually first contact as well. But growing up here in the community, amazing childhood with so much to do. If we wasn't collecting from the ocean here, because we live beside, we're saltwater people, we live beside the ocean. So saltwater culture is a huge part of my upbringing and still remains a huge part of who I am today. But yeah, learning to gather from the ocean, just those that skills and knowledge passed down from old people as a very young kid, was an amazing time. And back then, we just didn't know what we were getting, because it was fun for us. It wasn't about cultural learning for us. It was about just enjoying what we were doing. And, families used to go to the ocean every week, and it wasn't uncommon to have 10 families, sometimes up to 100 people, all gathered on the rocks, collecting from the rocks and cooking everything there and then. When the men were in the water collecting everyone else was on the rocks preparing everything, and cooking by fire. And so learning those skills and having our old people take us around the rocks and pointing things out on the rocks, what you could and couldn't eat, or what you should do and where you should go and what to look out for. Particularly the ocean's a dangerous area. So understanding those skills about water and movement and just all of the tucker that we were able to get was an amazing experience. And just having that valuable skills and knowledge, you don't realise how valuable that is until you get a bit later in life. And that was certainly the case for me and a lot of other kids in my generation. Sadly, the generations that come after me, that sort of learning and lifestyle has died down a bit, which is sad, because we were really, really connected to our country back then, and we still are now. But some more generations, haven't really had the opportunity to get that, as well as all the bush tucker that used to grow around the community and just understanding and knowing about the bush as well, and what you could and couldn't eat, and how to look after it as well. That's a unique skill and it's a many thousand-year-old skill that's been passed down from generations to generations. And I'm very thankful and just so grateful to gain that knowledge. As time went on, I took up a trade after I left school, and I spent a lot of time in the trade. So being able to stay connected really closely to country and do all those things became really hard. And I came pretty disconnected from that stuff. But after 20 years in the trade, things just didn't seem right. They didn't feel right. They didn't feel right inside. And for a long time, I didn't know what that was. But eventually, we learn and we understand things. And for me, it was about culture and country calling. So there's this very strong. Once you've got a strong connection to country, and your mob, and you know who you are and where you're from, and that there's a strong sort of presence of that in you at all times. And when you're away from country for even a short time, there's this magnetic sort of pull on you that wants to bring you back to country. And sometimes it's overwhelming for us as Aboriginal people, that strong connection. Eventually I couldn't sort of hold it off anymore, and I had to find out what it was I really wanted to do. And basically I wanted to get connected back to culture. And also, not only that, I noticed that a lot of young people wasn't getting the opportunities that we did to connect back to culture. So, I gave up everything I had, and I started to create opportunities for not only myself but others in the community to link with old people with knowledge, to go out on country and learn some stuff. And one of the first things that we did was we got back to the ocean. We created a program that allowed us to get back to the ocean and start to teach those kids really interesting stuff, and stuff that we grew up with that they were lacking. And that just things just snowballed from there, and we started to run camps and go to the ocean and the bush and start to teach kids skills from the bush as well, and learning how to make traditional stuff. I mean, I remember clearly as a kid, all the men in the community here at La Perouse are very good wood carvers, and they used to gather up a whole bunch of timber with their little tomahawks, sit in a circle and start to carve. But it was much more than carving. It was about connecting, and as men, connecting and sharing yarns and stories. And by the end of the day, those chunks of wood they had in front of them was beautiful artifacts, whether it was a bundi, a boomerang, a nulla nulla, or a spear. They had this amazing, these amazing artifacts. So I was very fortunate to watch that, gain some of that knowledge, and we were able to give it back to our young people as we got a bit older and started to create those opportunities. We're along the way too. We were also given knowledge, not just on using plants to make that type of stuff, but also the stuff you could eat and the medicines and that as well that sit within our landscapes, our bushlands. And so, having that knowledge, you were very lucky that you could just go anywhere and be confident that if you was in the bush anywhere, didn't matter whether you're in the bush in an urban environment or you was deep remotely, you've got that skills and knowledge. And there's always stuff there to survive on. So yeah, I'd feel very confident that it doesn't matter where I end up. If I'm trapped in the bush or something, I'm very confident that I could survive on my own if I had to. That's as an Aboriginal person, that's traditional culture, and that's something that every one of our young people really should have the opportunity to have those skills and knowledge. So moving along with that knowledge, I started to learn things about later in life. I started to learn things about what's going on sort of in a business sense, industry, in those, particularly in the bush food space, our native foods. And for a long time, my partner used to say to me, Peter, do you know what's happening in the bush food space? There's a whole lot going on in the native food space. And it just wasn't an interest for me. And that just used to fly straight over my head. And she just kept nagging that, you should look at this and have a look and see what you can do. And so one day I did. I had a look at it, and I could see what was, there was lots of different native foods being used, and at the same time, there was an opportunity to actually and go and study production horticulture, just for Aboriginal students to connect back to those foods. And it was run on the North Coast, New South Wales North Coast, and the opportunity came to actually study bush food production horticulture. So it was like Christmas everything come at once, and it was like, wow, this is exciting. So I got into that, and it was about halfway through the first block that we got to visit quite a few businesses on the North Coast that were actually producing native bush foods products. And we visited things like, finger limes and lemon myrtle and all these different little micro businesses that are operating. But they were actually, it was actually an industry based on our traditional foods. And once I could see that opportunity, I got all excited and I rushed back to the hotel and I rang up and said, I can see what's going on. I can see the light. I can see the brick walls come down and I can see the opportunities. And by the time I got home at the end of the week, I'd actually had an Indigigrow project wrote up. So we wanted to do something in the bush food space. I knew exactly that was a really good opportunity for us culturally, socially, culturally, and economically as well. So I could see the benefits in all those areas. And I designed Indigigrow to incorporate all of those areas. One that, first and foremost, the foundation of Indigigrow is about culture. It's about making sure that for us and any of our young people that come into Indigigrow, that there's that cultural foundation, that cultural grounding for them. That was the priority, and then anything after that was built from that. So yeah, our young people, culture. A lot of people don't really understand when we talk about culture, but if I can put it in a way, if we had a ship in the middle of the ocean out here in the bay, and it's cruising out and it knows exactly where it wants to go, then all of a sudden it hits something and the rudder is torn off that ship. It's out in the middle of the ocean. It has no mechanism for steering to where it has to go or where it wants to go. And then it's open to all these outside elements to shift it into areas where it shouldn't really be. And culture is the same with our people. Without culture, we have no rudder. We don't have direction. We can't move to areas or do things that we want to do. Because it's our foundation, it's who we are, it's our identity. Without it, we're lost. It's as simple as that. We're absolutely lost. So everything we do here, including Indigigrow, the first and foremost, the priority is about culture, instilling that element into our programs. So any of our young people that come through, the first thing they get is culture. And in Indigigrow, they get that through connection to all the plants. They get that through, we're working on country. We're working on our own traditional lands. We have 100% Aboriginal staff in Indigigrow. It's 100% owned and run. So it's like a cultural hub, and it's a safe cultural space for our young people to come into and learn. And that's what we need to provide for our young people. And we're very, very lucky to be able to do that. So I'm really proud of the fact that, there's strong cultural role models and mentors in Indigigrow as well. But, it has two core areas. One is our native bush foods and one is our local native plants on country. Very, very important. And our local native plants from here all the way through to Sydney Harbour are listed as critically endangered, which is horrifying for someone like me to think that, all our culture and history that sits within that landscape, all the fauna that require all that bushland as well, rely on it, could disappear. So Indigigrow our focus is reviving that and bringing that back and putting it back in the landscape, and our people doing that. Provenance on our land, on our traditional lands is a very big thing. It's a very important thing, and we are really, strong about that. The origins of where things come from, particularly our own stuff here, is really, really important that we're connected to it. Yeah. So we have two young local Aboriginal people, school-based apprentices, and they come to us every Thursday, Friday. They're local people as well from our community here as well, and we're able to give them those opportunities. So they go to school, they come work, they paid work, and it's that safe environment where they're very happy to come to, and they work hard for you too, because they have that cultural respect. They have that respect for the older people, and they're fantastic young fellas to. I'm very proud that we're able to provide those opportunities for our own people. Yeah, so we have probably 100 different native bush foods here. Some are very popular and common, others not so common, but really important to our survival. And I think you're going to see a huge push for native ingredients in the future. It's already happening, and we want to ensure that Indigigrow has our foot in the door when that explosion happens, and we don't get left behind. We actually go with it. Not only go with it, but we try and drive the industry as well. We're really hopeful that Aboriginal people can play a big part in our native foods, as we should, in my belief. So I hope you've enjoyed my yarn, and I'm not quite sure what to do, but we've got questions here, so I can see a few questions up on the screen, and I'll try to answer some of them if I can. But there's one here. Okay, I'll answer the one. There's a question about recipes, etc. Well, there's a lot of recipes for. We have 6,500 native foods across Australia. At the moment, we've got about less than 20 of those being commercialised, but any of the commercialised food, you can get recipes readily available online. There's plenty of stuff online about recipes, so I hope that's answered that question. We'll go to another one. Yes, there's one I'm very interested in here in regards to so in regards to Aboriginal studies being taught in schools, yes, I think it's absolutely should be done. I think the only way we're going to actually move towards closing the gap in the future is through our young people. Our young people are going to grow into young leaders. They're going to grow into the decision makers in this country. And I think that every Aboriginal, not only Aboriginal people, but I think every person in Australia should have the opportunity about learning about First Nations people. And I think that would go a long, long, long way to huge reconciliation in this country, which I think is desperately needed, particularly, in light of recent events. And okay, I think my time's come to an end. But yeah, look, I really want to thank everyone. I hope it's been an interesting yarn for everyone and not a bore. But I really do thank SOUPFEST for the opportunity to come on and share our story. And you can, if anyone's interested in Indigigrow, we have a website, indigigrow.com.au. You can see all what we do on there, and also our Indigigrow Facebook page. So thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of the day and great rest of the coverage from SOUPFEST. Thank you all.